Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to Outlaws and Gunslingers Mafia Edition, where we're coming back after the Castellammarese War. And at the end of the episode, we went a little bit on the commission, where Lucky Luciano took out Maranzano because he wanted to be the capo di tutti capi. But the rest of the youngins didn't like that, so he's eliminated after himself eliminated Masseria, ending the Castellammarese War and starting the Five Families. And after he's gone, Lucky puts together the old commission, which originally consisted of 7 family bosses, which were the 5 families, were Chucky, Lucky, Luciano, Vincent Mangano, Tommy Gagliano, Joseph Bonanno, Joe Profaci, Chicago outfit boss Al Capone, and Buffalo family boss Stefano Magadino. And then we took a look at the one guy that tried killing the special prosecutor, and the commission has its first test. They ended up killing old Dutch Schultz. And this episode, we'll take a closer look at the commission, kind of like a little history, kind of the major things that the commissions went through, like the Apalachin Meeting, where a bunch of bosses were arrested at that, and then the later commission trial in the 80s, which got a bunch more bosses arrested after that, and take a look at how they're still in operation today. And I think they just recently held a meeting not too long ago, according to one snitch, so we'll take a look at all that. But May 13th, 1936, as we've seen in our Lucky Luciano episode that we did way back, he went on trial for pandering, did Lucky, and his trial began on May 13th. Dewey prosecuted the case. That was the guy that they saved Dutch Schultz from killing, and he accused Luciano of being part of a massive prostitution ring known as the Combination. Dude just loves words that are the with C's, right?
Right.
During the trial, Dewey exposed Luciano for lying on the witness stand through direct quizzing and records of telephone calls. Luciano also had no explanation for why his federal income tax records claimed he only made $22,000 a year. Well, he was obviously a wealthy man. Same way they got Capone, Lucky. June 7th, Luciano was convicted on 62 counts of compulsory prostitution.
Damn.
June 18th, he was sentenced to 30 to 50 years in state prison, along with a bunch of other mafia guys.
Oh, wow. The Navy, the state of New York, and Luciano reached a deal. In exchange for a commutation of his sentence, Luciano promised the complete assistance of his organization in providing intelligence to the Navy. Anastasia, a Luciano ally who controlled the docks, allegedly promised no dockworker strikes during the war. In preparation for the 1943 Allied invasion of Sicily, Luciano allegedly provided by the United States military with Sicilian mafia contacts. This collaboration between the Navy and the mafia became known as the Operation Underworld.
Yup.
January 3rd, 1946. As a presumed reward for his alleged wartime cooperation, Dewey reluctantly commuted Luciano's pandering sentence on the condition that he did not resist deportation to Italy. He's like, well, we'll let you go, but you got to go to Italy.
All right. Well, of course, he accepted that deal, although he still maintained that he was a U.S. citizen and not subject to deportation. February 2nd, 1946, 2 federal immigration agents transported him from Sing Sing prison to Ellis Island and said, you go back to Sicily, my friend.
Right.
February 10th, his ship sailed from Brooklyn, headed for Italy. 1951, conservative faction leader Vincent Mangano went missing, and Albert Anastasia sided with liberal American faction members Frank Costello and Tommy Lucchese.
Uh-oh.
The power of the commission shifted from the conservative Sicilian faction to the liberal American faction.
Oh, no.
When Vincent Mangano disappeared, his brother Philip Mangano was found dead near Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, allegedly on the orders of Albert Anastasia.
Oh, man.
Taking him out.
Taking him out with Mangano gone. Frank Costello became the commission leader for the liberal faction. Joseph Bonanno became the leader of the conservative faction. The liberal faction was supported by those who were also open with working with non-Italian organizations and drugs, namely by Vito Genovese, Tommy Lucchese, and Carlo Gambino, who was opposed to drugs, though.
Oh.
While the conservative faction were more reserved with an older Italian tradition of honor and loyalty, namely by Joe Profaci and Stefano Magadino. Yeah, they're trying to get rid of that anyway because they wanted to work with the Jews and the talent. I mean, the
Everybody.
right.
After a 1956 commission meeting, the crime families of Philly, headed by Angelo Bruno, and Detroit, headed by Joseph Zerilli, were added to the table, and smaller families began formally represented by a commission family. 1937, all the way back, though, fearing prosecution for the murder of Ferdinand Boccia, the acting boss for Luciano, Vito Genovese, fled to Italy with $750,000 in cash and settled in the city of Nola, near Naples. With his departure, Frank Costello became the acting boss. During the mid-50s, Vito Genovese decided to move against Costello, though. However, he needed to also remove Costello's strong ally on the commission, Albert Anastasia.
Gotta do it.
Who was the boss, obviously, of the Anastasia crime family. Genovese was soon conspiring with Carlo Gambino, who was Anastasia's underboss, to remove him.
Uh-oh.
June 2nd, 1945, Genovese returned to New York by ship, and the following day, he was arraigned on murder charges for the 1934 Boccia killing.
Oh, wow.
He pleaded not guilty and was released from custody in 1946.
Wow.
Damn.
Dang.
June 10th, 1946, another prosecution witness, Jerry Esposito, was found shot to death beside a road in Norwood, New Jersey.
I mean, you knew that was coming. Wow. Early 1957, Genovese decided to move on Costello.
Damn, dude waited 12 years.
He ordered Vincent Gigante to murder Costello. And on 2nd of May, 1957, Gigante shot and wounded Costello outside of his apartment building. Although the wound was superficial, it persuaded Costello to relinquish power to Genovese and retire. Well, he got scared. A doorman identified Gigante as the gunman. However, in 1958, Costello testified that he was unable to recognize his assailant. I didn't see it. It was dark. Gigante was acquitted on the charges of attempted murder. Of course he was.
You ain't gonna say nothing?
No.
Late 57, Genovese and Gambino allegedly ordered Anastasia's murder. Genovese had heard rumors that Costello was conspiring with Anastasia to regain power now.
Oh, jeez.
October 25th, 1957, Anastasia arrived at the Park Central Hotel barbershop in Midtown Manhattan, obviously for a haircut and a shave. As he relaxed in the barber chair, two men with their faces covered in scarves shot and killed him.
Dang.
Yeah, that's another famous mob photo.
Right. Wow. Well, November of 1957, immediately after Anastasia Moida, after taking control of the Luciano crime family from Costello, Genovese wanted to legitimize his new power by holding a national Cosa Nostra meeting. The meeting was reportedly originally set for Chicago, but Genovese decided to have it in Apalachin at the urging of Buffalo, New York boss and commission member Stefano the Undertaker Magadino. And despite the objections of Chicago outfit boss Sam Giancana, Magadino, in turn, chose northeastern Pennsylvania crime boss Joseph Barbara and his underboss Russell Buffalino to oversee all the arrangements.
All right. November 14th, 1957, the Mafia bosses, their advisors, and bodyguards, which was approximately 100 men in all, met at Barbara's 53-acre estate in Apalachin, New York. That town is located along the south shore of the Susquehanna. Hey, the Susquehanna. Hey, look at that. Two worlds collide.
Hey.
It's on the south shore of the Susquehanna River near the Pennsylvania border and about 200 miles northwest of New York.
Okay.
The purpose of the meeting was to discuss Cosa Nostra operations such as gambling, casinos, narcotics dealing, along with the division of the illegal operations controlled by the recently killed Anastasia.
All right, you got to get all that taken care of.
The Scalise and Anastasia murders were topics that needed immediate attention since men in the Anastasia family were still loyal to the Anastasia Scalise regime.
Of course they were.
All right.
The powerful capo regimes, Agnello de Lam de la Cruz and Armand Tommy Rava, were about to go to war against Genovese and his allies. Some of the most powerful Cosa Nostra family heads in the country, such as Santo Trafficante Jr., Northeastern Pennsylvania family underboss Russell Buffalino, Frank D. Simone of L.A., Carlos Littleman Marcello, and Meyer Lansky, worried about Anastasia's attempts to muscle in on their Havana casino operations before the commission sanctioned his assassination.
Right.
They're like, ooh, they're going to come down to Cuba and mess with our stuff. They're like, no, we got you, bud. Cuba was one of the Appalachian topics of discussion, particularly the gambling and narcotic smuggling interests of La Cosa Nostra on the island.
The international narcotics trade was also an important topic on the Appalachian agenda as well. Shortly before the meeting, the Bonanno family members Joseph Bonanno, Carmine Galante, Frank Garofalo, Giovanni Ventre, and other American mafia representatives from Detroit, Buffalo, Montreal visited Palermo, where they held talks with Sicilian mafioso staying at the Grand Hotel de Palms. the New York garment industry interests and rackets such as loan sharking to the business owners and control of garment center trucking were other important topics on the Appalachian
You know,
agenda.
they had the control of clothing, man.
Right.
Gotta have that shit. All the best. The outcome of the discussions concerning the garment industry in New York would have a direct and, in some cases, indirect effect on the business interest of some of the other bosses around the country, mainly those interested in garment manufacturing, trucking, labor, and unions, which brought in large sums for the families involved. Yeah, they're messing with the Momo, messing with my moolah. A local state trooper named Edgar D. Croswell had been aware that Carmine Galante had been stopped by state troopers following a visit to Barbara's estate that previous year. A check of Galante by the troops found that he was driving without a license and that he had an extensive criminal record in New York City. Like, dang, dude.
Well, in the time preceding the November 57 meeting, Trooper Croswell had Barbara's house under occasional surveillance.
Well,
He had become aware that Barbara's son was reserving rooms in local hotels along with the delivery of a large quantity of meat from a local butcher to the Barbara home. And look at this guy. That made Croswell suspicious, and he therefore decided to keep an eye on Barbara's house.
damn right.
When the state police found many luxury cars parked at his home, they began taking down license plate numbers. Having found that many of these were registered to known criminals, state police reinforcements came to the scene and began to set up a roadblock.
Oh, shit.
Damn. Yeah, why would you do that anyways? It's stupid.
All right. Haven't
Do it in a small-ass town where they're going to notice.
dummy. I think all these nice-ass cars and bunch of people in suits.
Different license plates and
Right.
different states.
Jeez, having barely started their meeting, Bartolo Guccia, a Castellamare del Golfo native and Joe Barba employee, he spotted the roadblock while leaving Barbara's estate. Guccia later said he was returning to Barbara home to check on a fish order. Some attendees attempted to drive away but were stopped by the roadblock. Others trudged through the fields and woods, ruining their expensive suits before they were caught. Tony Soprano got away, though.
Yep. Dropped his gun, though.
Dummy. Up to 50 men escaped, but over 60 were apprehended, including commission members Genovese, Carlo Gambino, Joseph Perfasi, and Joseph Bonanno. Virtually all of them claimed that they heard Joseph Barbara was feeling ill and that they had visited him to wish him well. It's like,
It's a
dude,
hell of a time, and they all got here. Oh, you're here too?
my buddy's sick, man.
All right. 20 of those who attended the Appalachian meeting were charged with conspiring to obstruct justice by lying about the nature of the underworld meeting.
Oh,
How did you...
Right.
And found guilty in January of 1959.
What?
All were fined up to $10,000 each and given prison sentences ranging from 3 to 5 years. Damn. All the convictions were overturned on appeal the following year. Of course they
Obviously.
were. The detained and indicted mafioso at the summit on November 14th, 57 included Joe Barbara. Was it Barbera? I bet it's Barbera. Rosario Buffalino, Dominic Alamo, Angelo Scandra, Ignatius Canone, Anthony Gornieri, James Astico, Pasquale Turigiano, Emmanuel Zaccari, Salvatore Trivellino, Pasquale Monachino, Pasquale Sciortino, Gary Pasquale, Morris Modogno, Bartolo Guccia, Giovanni Bonventre, Anthony Riella, Natal Evola, Vito Genovese, Gerardo Cattina, Michelle Miranda, Salvatore Chieri, Carlo Gambino, Joseph Riccabano, Paul Castellano, Armand Rava, Vincent Rao, Giovanni Armento, Joseph Rosado, Joseph Profasi, Joseph Magliaccio, Salvatore Tornaby, Frank Maggiuri, Louis Larasso, John Montana, Antonio Magadino, Rosario Carlizzi, James De La Duca, Samuel Lagatuda, Dominic D'Agostino, Joseph Falcone, Salvatore Falcone, Rosario Mancuso, Costenze Valenti, Frank Valenti, Michael Genovese, John LaRocca, Gabriel Manarino, Joseph Ida, Dominic Avaleto, John Scalish, John DeMarco, Frank Cucciara, Frank Zito, Salvatore Cufari, Santo Traficante Jr., Joseph Savello, John Coletti, James Coletti, Frank DeSimone, Simone Scazzari, Nicholas Savella, Joseph Filardo. Oh, jeez.
Oh,
Frank DeSimone, you guys know who that is?
Whew.
Pretty sure he is the character that, no, maybe it's not. Maybe it's Tommy DeSimone, is the character in Casino. That's,
All right. Mm-hmm.
the little guy.
Mm-hmm. Pesci.
Yeah, Joe Pesci. Yeah, I think that Tommy DeSimone is who that's based off of, right?
Sure.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy.
He's been missing for 44 years, 4 months, and 18 days.
Well, he got beat with baseball bats.
Supposedly. Longtime FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover denied the existence of a national crime syndicate and the need to address organized crime in America. I wonder why.
Right.
After the Appalachian Summit, Hoover could no longer deny the syndicate's existence and its influence on North American underworld, as well as Cosa Nostra's overall control and influence of the syndicate's many branches throughout North America and abroad. After the Apalachin Meeting, J. Edgar Hoover created the Top Hoodlum Program and went after the syndicate's top bosses throughout the country. As a result of the Apalachin Meeting, the membership books to become a made man in the mob were closed and were not reopened again until 1976.
Well, Magadino and Genovese were the commission members who called for the meeting once Albert Anastasia assassination took place. Fellow Castellammarese clan members, Barbara and Bonanno, I think it's Barbara, guys, sorry, had warned Magadino that it was not a good idea to hold the meeting in the same venue as the previous year.
No.
Barbara warned Magadino that he and local policemen by the name of Croswell disliked each other very much and that he might cause problems if he discovered the meeting. But Magadino said it was too late to call it off because all the arrangements had been made. And there, everybody was already coming. So,
all right, what can you do? All right, so they did it anyway.
Magadino, everybody looked at him with a stink eye after this.
Right. Following the raid, arrest, and indictments, Genovese and Giancana blamed Buffalo crime boss Magadino for the trouble surrounding the Cosa Nostra after Appalachian. Sometime after the publicity and the heat from law enforcement subsided, there was an attempt made on the life of Magadino. Magadino lived in one of several Mafia row houses on Dana Drive in the Buffalo suburb of Lewiston. The houses were owned by Magadino and his sons-in-laws, James de La Ducha, Charles Montana, and Vincent Scrope, who were all made members of his crime family. In an attempt on his life, a grenade was tossed through the window of his home, though it failed to detonate. They forgot to pull the pin.
Wow. Damn, a grenade?
Damn, that would have sucked.
Barbara found himself investigated by law enforcement and indicted for not testifying to a grand jury what transpired at his home on November 15, 1950. He doesn't have to tell you.
Right.
He was also charged in 1959 with income tax evasion and submitted fraudulent corporation tax forms.
Oh, jeez.
His business interests declined as he lost his lucrative bottling contract with Canada Dry. Oh, jeez. Oh, no. Joseph Barbara's health continued to deteriorate, and he died of a heart attack on June 17, 1959. Following his death, Barbara's Appalachian estate was sold and was, for a time, used for sightseeing tours.
Oh, that's nice. Cool. Look at that. Wow. Subsequent investigation and research into the Appalachian Summit have raised the possibility that the event was a setup designed to destroy newly crowned boss Genovese.
Maybe it was.
The primary evidence for this theory is the conspicuous absence of three prominent national crime bosses.
Or conspicuous.
Right. Lucky Luciano, Frank Costello, and Meyer Lansky were all not there.
Right.
High-ranking mafioso, including Luciano himself and Joseph Doc Stacher, have since remarked that the meeting was sabotaged. The outcome of the meeting fell mostly in the favor of Costello's and Luciano's agenda, both of whom wanted revenge against Genovese for his recent actions. Luciano Gambino allegedly helped pay part of the $100,000 to a Puerto Rican drug dealer to falsely implicate Genovese in a drug deal. Oh, jeez.
July 7, 1958, Genovese was indicted on charges of conspiring to import and sell narcotics.
Oh, man.
The government star witness was Nelson Canalops, who was a Puerto Rican drug dealer who claimed Genovese met with him. On April 4th, 1959, Genovese was convicted in New York of conspiracy to violate federal narcotics laws.
Oh, jeez.
April 17th of that same year, he was sentenced to 15 years in the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary in Atlanta, where he tried to run his crime family from prison.
I'm sure he could.
Right.
Also of note is the absence of any Mafia members from Chicago, Nolens, San Francisco, or Detroit. All places where Costello or Luciano still had significant influence. It is possible that these families were represented and simply not apprehended, but no evidence has ever been found of their presence. Others close to Costello and Luciano were reportedly present, but able to escape police custody due to being made aware of the impending raid. Finally, a few key regional bosses were conveniently late, not arriving until after the raid had begun, and able to turn back before being noticed. They're like, oh, this ain't cool.
That's definitely a setup there.
Right.
Well, however, there has never been conclusive evidence to prove such a theory, and there are alternative explanations for many of the dubious propositions underpinning the events, like Meyer Lansky's absence is often cited as being conspicuous, but in fact, Lansky was a member of the Jewish Mafia, and none of the other high-ranking Jewish bosses, including Stacher, Abner Zwillman, Philip Castell, and Morris Dalitz were present, which there is some dispute over whether any Jewish Mafia's members were even there or invited.
I don't think they were.
Lansky, for his part, claimed to have been ill on the day of the summit. As for the missing Italian Mafia bosses, by that time, Luciano had been deported to Italy. Yeah, Luciano was deported to Italy and was not permitted in the U.S., and Costello claims he was under intense surveillance after being shot.
He probably was.
Then too, right.
So that makes sense.
Right.
There's evidence of some level of conspiracy, though, by these three to sabotage Genovese's attempted power grab. But given the very successful targeted attacks in Genovese that were to follow, there has been no serious explanation why three senior mafiosi would risk revealing the mafia's existence and the potential capture of so many high-ranking members of the local families to a federal government that still denies they even exist. Rather, it is equally possible that the three were simply conspiring to prevent Genovese from gaining broad national support by the limiting of the number of outfits represented at the meeting. By all accounts, even had the meetings gone off as planned, there would have likely been little of Genovese's presumed agenda actually achieved.
Okay. The intense interest by state police can also be explained by the fact that this was not the first meeting of the commission at the location,
right?
Which was the same location had been used the previous year, like we said. Barber himself voiced this concern to Magadino, like we said. Additionally, Barbara was aware that Sergeant Croswell disliked him, like he said,
right,
and would likely be suspicious of any strange activity at his home. Magadino was later recorded blaming Barbara for this fiasco, despite it having been Magadino's decision to host it. Okay. Finally, police and federal agents had only the suspicion of illegal activity occurring at the summit. They did not have sufficient cause to obtain search warrants.
Nope.
In fact, most of the crime bosses who were retained were those that attempted to flee the scene, while those who remained inside the house, such as Magadino, remained free. Right. We're just chilling.
Right.
You guys are running for no reason.
Dummies. 1963, Joe Bonanno made plans to assassinate several rivals on the commission. Bosses Tommy Lucchese, Carlo Gambino, Stefano Magadino, as well as Frank D. Simone. Bonanno sought Profesi, crime family boss, Joseph Magliocco support. Magliocco readily agreed due to his bitterness from being denied a seat on the commission previously. Bonanno's audacious goal was to take over the commission and make Magliocco his right-hand man. Magliocco was assigned the task of killing Lucchese and Gambino, and gave the contract to one of his top hitmen, Joseph Colombo.
Oh. However, the opportunistic Colombo revealed the plot to its targets, which they always do. The other bosses realized that Magliocco could not have planned this himself. Remembering how close Bonanno was with Magliocco, and before him Joe Profesi, as well as their close ties through marriages and the other bosses concluded Bonanno was the real mastermind. The commission summoned Bonanno and Magliocco to explain themselves. They said, tell us. Mid-1964, Bonanno fled to Montreal, leaving Magliocco to deal with the commission. Wow. Badly shaken and in failing health, Magliocco confessed his role in the plot. The commission spared his life, but forced him to retire as Profesi family boss and pay a $50,000 fine.
Oh, wow.
As a reward for turning on his boss, Colombo took control of the Profesi family. Look at that, dude. Colombo did some shit, huh?
Dang. As part of the Mafia Commission trial on 25th of February 1985, 9 New York Mafia leaders were indicted for narcotics trafficking, loan sharking, gambling, labor racketeering, and extortion against construction companies under the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. RICO! 1983, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, recorded several wiretap conversations of Ralph Scopo extorting money from contractors.
Oh.
Scopo was the president of the Cement and Concrete Workers District Council of the Laborers International Union of North America from 1975 to 1985. During this time, Scopo used his position to extort money from the cement contractors in New York in return for large construction contracts and labor peace.
Dude, 77 to 85. Imagine how many of those skyscrapers and shit were built in New York that had to go through the mob.
Right. Jeez.
Contracts between $2 million and $15 million were reserved for a club of contractors called the Concrete Club, which were selected by the commission. In return, these contractors gave a 2% kickback of the contract value to the commission. Gennaro Langella supervised various labor rackets for the Colombo family, including their stake in the Concrete Club, and exerted control over various labor unions, including Cement and Concrete Workers District Council Local 6A. Anthony Salerno also had hidden control and interests in S&A Concrete Company and Transit Mixed Concrete Corp.
Oh, wow.
Jeez, dude.
Oh, wow. In the early 1980s, Anthony Carello unwittingly provided the government with evidence that would all but end his career.
Oh, what happened?
Over the years, Carello and Salvatore Avellino established a stranglehold on the waste hauling business on Long Island.
Yep.
To gather evidence against Avellino, members of the New York State Organized Crime Task Force used undercover informant Robert Kubeka, the owner of a Suffolk County, New York garbage hauling business. Since the 1970s, Kubeka had refused to participate with the mob control of the waste hauling business and had suffered extensive harassment.
Well, at least he didn't die.
Right.
Maybe. 1982, Quebec agreed to wear a surveillance device during meetings with the mobsters. Don't you know?
Right.
You don't do that. Although Quebec was unable to get close to Avellino himself, the information he gathered eventually persuaded a judge to allow a wiretap on Avellino's home phone. The home phone tap was also disappointing to the agents. However, it did reveal that Avellino was driving Carallo around all day in Avellino's car.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool. 1983, members of the New York State Organized Crime Task Force installed an electronic surveillance device inside the dashboard on Avellino's Jaguar while he and his wife were at a dinner dance. Whoa, look at these guys.
Wow. Agents then listened to many conversations between Carello, Avellino, and other mobsters as they drove around the city. From these recorded conversations, OCTF learned that the commission's internal structure, history, and relations with other crime families. These conversations were shared with federal prosecutors and provided them with invaluable evidence against Carello and the other family bosses in the Mafia Commission trial.
I don't know if these are on this, but I think Netflix has a documentary. It's called something about the streets of New York or Fight for New York, and it's like a collection of 70s and 80s wiretaps from the Mafia and how they eventually like brought a bunch of people down, dude. It's crazy. Crazy good stuff. It's good stuff. Well, that Mafia Commission trial, like we said, yeah, that led to this the Mafia Commission trial, at which we had 9 defendants indicted. February 25th, 1985. Paul Castellano, which is boss of the Gambino crime family. Anthony Salerno, boss of the Genovese crime family. Anthony Carallo, boss of the Lucchese crime family. Philip Rastelli, boss of the Bonanno crime family, as well as their subordinates, Agnello Della Croce, who was the Gambino family underboss. Gennaro Langella, Colombo family acting boss. Salvatore Santoro, Lucchese family underboss. Christopher Fernari, Lucchese family consigliere. Ralph Scopo, Colombo family soldier. And added shortly after the trial was Carmine Persico, which was boss of the Colombo crime family. Stefano Canone, Bonanno family consigliere. And Anthony Indelicato, Bonanno family capo. Damn, dude, they got all the bosses.
Yeah, it's crazy. July 1st, 1985, the original 9 men, with the addition of 2 more New York Mafia leaders, pleaded not guilty to a second set of racketeering charges as part of the trial. Prosecutors aimed to strike at the crime families at once, using their involvement in the commission. On December 2nd, 1985, Della Croce died of cancer. Castellano was later murdered on the 16th of December, 1985.
Damn, take him out. Oh, they must have been scared he was going to say something. According to Colombo hitman, FBI informant Gregory Scarpa, Persico and Gambino boss John Gotti, oh, this guy, huh? He backed a plan to kill the lead prosecutor and future New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani in late 1986, but it was rejected by the rest of the commission. Damn, Rudy almost got whacked. In the early 80s, the Bonanno crime family were kicked off of the commission due to Donnie Brasco infiltration. Oh, what's his name? Joseph Pistone. And although Rastelli was one of the men initially indicted, this removal from the commission actually allowed him to be removed from the commission trial. Oh, wow. As he was later indicted on a separate labor racketeering charge.
Of course he was.
Having previously lost their seat on the commission, the Bonanno suffered less exposure than the other families in this case. Yeah. Yeah, that old Donnie Brasco, man. Ooh, that got a lot of people whacked.
Did. Crazy stuff. When the lawyers for the accused mafiosi reviewed the evidence, they realized their client's chances at trial were very slim. However, when they sounded out possible plea bargain terms, Giuliani demanded that the defendants plead guilty to the stiffest charges in the indictment, which carry sentences that would have all but assured they would die in prison. The 7 defense lawyers, as well as Persico's legal advisor, Persico was acting as his own lawyer, then decided to admit that the mafia and the commission existed, but argued that membership in the mafia or being a boss were not in and of themselves evidence of criminal activity.
Oh, whatever.
Oh, wow.
The mafia guys that these lawyers were defending initially balked at idea, believing that it would amount to a violation of the Code of Omerta. However, the lawyers impressed upon their clients that they could not credibly deny the existence of the mafia in the face of their own recorded references to it. Yeah, you're on tape talking about it, guys.
Right.
Ultimately, they agreed to this strategy as long as they did not have to personally admit the mafia existed.
Okay.
Hence, during his opening statement, Santoro's lawyer, Samuel Dawson, told the jury that there was no question that the Mafia exists and has members, but asked, can you accept that just because a person is a member of the Mafia, that doesn't mean he committed the crimes charged in this case? It was the first admission in open court that the Mafia existed.
Oh, wow. That's big.
Huge.
6 days of deliberation. The jury convicted 8 defendants of racketeering on 19th of November 1986, with the exception of Indelicato, who was convicted of Moida of Carmine Galante and were sentenced by Judge Richard Owen on 13th January 1987 as follows. Anthony Salerno got 100 years in prison, fined $240,000, died in 1992. Dang. Antonio Carrello.
So wait a minute. They admitted the Mafia existed just to get 100 years in prison?
Right, that's crazy.
Stupid.
So, yeah, he was the boss of the Genovese family. Antonio Carrello, boss of Lucchese family, 100 years in prison, $240,000 fine, died in 2000 on August 23rd. Salvatore Santoro, underboss of Lucchese, 100 years in prison, $250,000. He died in January of 2000. Christopher Fernari, he was a consigliere of Lucchese, 100 years in prison, $240,000 fine, died on 28th of May 2018, but he was released in 2014, though. Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, for like poor health or something?
Yeah, probably. Carmine Persico, he was a boss of the Colombo family, 100 years in prison, $240,000 fine. He died on the 7th of March in 2019, not too.
Wow.
Gennaro Langella, acting boss and underboss of the Colombo family, 100 years in prison, $240,000 fine. He died on the 15th of December, 2013.
Damn, dude, look at this. But all these guys are in the same prison together.
Oh, dude, you know they're still...
Springfield. I mean, come on.
They're still running shit all day. Ralph Scopo, who was a soldier of the Colombo family, 100 years in prison, $240,000 fine, died on the 9th of March, 1993 in federal custody. Anthony Indelicato, he was the capo of the Bonanno family, 40 years in prison and fined $50,000. He was released in 1998, and we don't know if he's still alive.
I'm sure he's still alive, man. Who would have said? Damn, Jimmy Burke's his dad-in-law. You know who Jimmy Burke is?
Jimmy Burke, yeah.
Jimmy the Gent. Yeah, well, Salerno had initially been billed as the boss of the Genovese family. However, shortly after the trial, his longtime right-hand man, Vincent the Fish Cafaro, turned informant, told the FBI that Salerno had been a front for the real boss, who was Vincent Gigante. Cafaro also revealed that the Genovese family had been keeping up this ruse since 1969. Oh, really?
Wow.
However, according to the New York Times organized crime reporter, they got their own crime reporter,
Dang.
Selwyn Robb, this would not have jeopardized Salerno's conviction at the commission trial or his 100-year sentence. Why? In his book, Five Families, Robb noted that Salerno had been tried and convicted for specific criminal acts, not for being the Genovese boss.
Okay.
That's true.
Well, according to Joseph Massino, former boss of the Bonanno family, the last known commission meeting held at the bosses was in November of 1985, just before the death of Paul Castellano that December. However, a commission meeting in 1988 was led by John Gotti and attended by Vincent Gigante and new Lucchese boss Victor Amuso. The first commission meeting since the Mafia Commission trial. According to Salvatore Vitale, a commission meeting was held in the early 2000s to restore the rule requiring both parents to be of Italian descent in order to become a made man.
Yeah, dude, after all that shit that happened with informants and
Right.
all these people turning, they're like, no, dude.
we gotta go back
we just started letting everybody in.
Right. The commission is still reported to exist, though its current membership is composed of only the bosses of the five families and the Chicago outfit. Instead of a meeting of bosses, underbosses, or captains, meet secretly to discuss business and govern.
Yep, secretly. October 2017, Domenico Violi of the Lupino crime family in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, was heard to have been named underboss of the Buffalo crime family on wiretaps. This revealed the activity of the commission as Violi's promotion was so unusual, being the first Canadian to hold the second highest position in the Mafia. Buffalo crime family is... the boss of them is the second highest one?
Yes.
That's crazy. And that Buffalo crime family boss, Joseph Tadaro Jr., stated he consulted with the commission for permission to promote him as Buffalo's new underboss. So, 2017, we know there was a meeting held then.
Wow. There is no ruler of the commission, but there was a nominated chairman or head of the National Commission. This was used as a substitute the role of the Capo di Tutti Capi. Copy. as that had the connotations of the old Mustache Pete system of one-man rule. 1931 1946, Luciano was the leader. He was arrested in 1936 and then deported in 1946. 1946, 1951, Vincent Mangano, he disappeared in 1951. 1951, 1957, a ruling panel, Frank the Prime Minister Costello, he was a liberal faction, and Joseph Bananas.
Joe Bananas.
Joe Bonanno is a conservative faction. They were the leaders. 1957, 1959, it was Vito Genovese. He got in prison in 1959 and died in 1969. 1959, 1963, Joseph Bonanno. 1963 to 1976, Carlo Gambino. He was allied with Lucchese and retired Frank Costello. He died in October 15th, 1976. 1976, 1985, Paul Castellano. He was moited. 1985, after the commission case, it was decided that the commission would no longer meet as a group. Instead, commission members would vote and send messengers to other family bosses relating to commission topics. Unofficial commission leaders. 1986, 1992, John Gotti. He was in prison in 1992 and died on June 10th, 2002. Now, okay, so the official commission leader from 1985-97 was Vincent Gigante. He was in prison in 97 and died in 2005. Another unofficial leader from 2000-2003 was Joseph Massino. He was in prison in 2003 and then in 2004 became government witness.
Oh. Well, families with the commission seats as of now are the Genovese, the Gambino, the Lucchese, the Chicago Outfit, the Bonanno, and the Colombo families, which the Bonannos were kicked out in the 80s. And then since the 90s have been allowed back in, the Colombos were kicked out in the 90s for some reason we'll get to. And in the 2000s, they were let back in. The Genovese family also represented people from the Buffalo crime family, the Philadelphia crime family, Detroit Partnership, the DeCavalcante crime family, the Patriarcha crime family, Pittsburgh crime family, Cleveland crime family, New Orleans crime family, Rochester crime family, which is now defunct. Oh. Families represented by the Chicago Outfit were the Milwaukee crime family, Kansas City, St. Louis, Traficante, which is in Tampa, L.A., San Francisco, and San Jose.
Right.
San Francisco has a little crime family, huh? Hi, guys.
All right. Jeez.
We're the Mafia. That's going to do it for pretty much the whole history of the commission, all their major stuff, which we kind of previewed a couple major stories that we'll get to, such as the Donnie Brasco case and the John Gotti. Obviously, his name was mentioned, thrown around in there a little bit.
Right.
Frank Costello's coming pretty quick.
Castellano. Paul Castellano, wasn't he the Goodfellas guy? Paulie?
I don't know. Maybe.
I think so.
Coming up next, though, we will officially start going family to family, and we'll start with the oldest of them all, the Genovese crime family, which started out as the Morello crime family. And we'll take a look at as many members as we can that have decent long stories in this family, and then we'll move family to family to family to family.
Right.
And we'll be here for a while, so make sure to join us there and over on the Battles of the American Civil War. By the time you hear this, we might be on the Gettysburg episode, so that's another epic freaking battle in the year of 1863 over on the Battles of the American Civil War. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts, and we got a new podcast coming up that we'll probably announce like we're some big deal or something. We're going to announce this shit. But we'll give you guys details on that probably in the next episode coming up. Join us back next week for the start of the Genovese crime family profile. We'll see you then. We're the Mother Music Industries.
Dang.